Hello, my name is Lexi Davis. I'm a self-discovery coach, a yoga and meditation instructor, a love enthusiast, and a really playful human being. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this is Heart Snuggles, a holistic wellness podcast where I invite guests to drop into their heart space through authentic conversations and compassionate intentions, all in mini cuddly episodes, hoping that you connect to your truth in the most authentic version of yourself. I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Heart Snugglers. Hope you're having a lovely day. And I brought a new friend who is so adorable, and I'm so happy she's here with us. Go ahead and tell them all about you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kaeli. I live in Los Angeles, California. I work in digital advertising, and I just started a podcast called Cowgirl in LA. I grew up on a ranch in Arizona, like super rural, isolated, no cell phone service, 30 minutes from a grocery store, just like in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. I hate living here. Please take me somewhere else. And that was about 10 years ago. So I went to Italy. I was a Mormon missionary in Italy for a year and a half. And I lived in Utah for school. And then I was like, I've got to go to California. I've got to leave this Mormon church behind me. And I've just got to live my fucking life. So that's kind of what I'm in the middle of doing. I've been in LA for about 2 years. And yeah, I'm loving it. Happy. Just started my podcast and it's been great. Yeah.
So wonderful. I'm so proud of you for following your heart in those inner callings. So what was it that you knew that like where you're living wasn't right?
So like growing up, I was so curious about just the world and like I watched a lot of TV growing up and I was just like, I want to see all of these places. Like I remember when I was a kid and I watched the Lizzie McGuire movies. That was like my favorite movie. And she was like in Rome and in Italy. And I was like, I want to live in Italy one day. And like in my like 8-year-old brain or whatever, I was like convinced. I was like, that's me. Like that's gonna be me. And then I got in like my teenage years and I was like, that's not gonna happen. Like it's so expensive. I don't know what to do. And then I ended up like being a Mormon missionary in Italy, which there's a lot to dissect about like that whole situation. But regardless, I got to live in Italy for a year and a half. And it's become like such this monumental like experience that I had because, you know, living in Rome is magical. Like that city has so much magic in it. And how could I not just be like enchanted by it? And then once I got back and I moved back to Arizona, I was just like, where's that magic that I felt in Italy? Like, I don't feel that here. And so I've kind of just been like on the last 10 years, just like searching for that. But I also had like so many restrictions with like my religious beliefs. And yeah, so I had to deconstruct all of that because even that, I was just like, this just doesn't feel like me. Like, this isn't me, but I'm like living this life. Like, what do I do to just be me? I don't know. So it's taken forever and I'm still in the midst of it, but I feel like I've just come out off of like the deep end. And I am so passionate about like having conversations with people who are, I don't know, in the midst of their own religious trauma, and leaving high demand religions is like really hard. Like there's so much like to dissect about your just existence as a human and other people's existence as humans. And it's like hard stuff. You have to have hard conversations with family and friends, and like the possibility of just like being completely like shunned from your community is just scary. So I'm excited about my podcast because I've already had so many great conversations with people about how to navigate this. Like we talk about, my last episode was like Mormon sex education. Like, what did that look like? Like, what were you taught? And we like laughed about it because in one of the manuals, they were like, no homosexual or lesbian behavior. And we were like, they didn't even know like the same thing, you know? So it's just crazy having these conversations with other people who are like opening up their eyes and seeing like, oh, wait, hold on. Wait, what am I doing with my life? And so it's been great, like finding my community in that sense.
So Lovely. I'm so excited to dive into this. So I forgot the question of the podcast. Can't forget it. So I'll ask that and then we'll go back to this. So what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
Random act of kindness. Yesterday, I had a friend who just spent like 3 hours with me talking through really important things about like my life and my goals. And they had like a really busy day and they were in the midst of dealing with all their own stuff, but they took the time to just like talk to me and like guide me. And it was so kind of them. And they didn't need to do that. So I appreciate that kindness that they showed me.
That's so beautiful. I love when friends can hold us like that.
Yeah.
So let's go into the Mormonism and how you like first got the inkling that was like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah. So I like the way that Mormonism is set up is that like you're kind of taught that you have this understanding about life and God and the world that other people don't have. And like you are just so blessed and privileged to have this knowledge that like nobody else has. So for most of my life, I was just like, I'm so grateful for this knowledge that I have about who I am as a daughter of God. Like it was just, I was so grateful for it. And then I took a class in college about feminism, and they asked a question about women's voices. And just like basically, I started to look at the spaces where women were allowed to speak and like show up. And it, at least in my community in the Mormon church, it was just like it wasn't there. Like women didn't have microphones, like it was always men speaking. And there's this conference that they do twice a year. It's like 10 hours of like faith talks basically. And like 9 of them are of men. And they have like a few women who speak that like have almost like a pity microphone given to them. And after I had taken this class and I was like thinking about this question, like how do women's voices, how do they show up in the world? And I was like, they don't really show up in my community. Like as a woman, like they say I have a voice and but I don't. And then I started like thinking, well, I know that God loves me as much as he loves women, but like why is like this organized religion that is God's religion? Like why can't women speak too? And it was like the beginning of me unraveling this conditioning that I'd been like given my whole life about like my calling as a daughter of God. And I was like, that doesn't resonate with me like at all. And so I just started deconstructing everything. And it was a really intensive process of like, yeah, retraining my brain to like see the world in a completely different way. And a key belief about Mormonism is that like is basically they believe that if you're like Mormon, that your family can be together forever. Like if you die, your whole family can be together forever. But if you're not Mormon, you can't be with your family like in heaven. Like you're in a different place if you're not Mormon. And so like I knew that like my family and my friends would approach me leaving the church as like me not being part of their family anymore. Like, and it's just part of the doctrine, and that even if they feel differently, it's hard for them to like actually like accept that. So it was like a really big decision to be, and I think some people don't understand like how big of a like social impact that makes. Mormons are very like tight knit, and like if you leave, like I don't know, it's just not the greatest. And I was just like, but I don't believe these things. Like I don't believe that gay people are like wrong. Like I don't believe that they were just born wrong. Like they're just who they are. And all of these things, I was just like, I do not believe that. And I can't keep showing up in the world with this label of myself. So even though I might lose all of my beliefs about myself and all of like my close relationships, like I can't just keep living in this brain where I'm like, I don't know, convinced of this truth. So yeah, I decided to leave, and it was kind of a big decision. And I did that about 2 years ago. And since then, I've just been like doing all the things, I wasn't able to like have sex before. I couldn't drink coffee. I couldn't wear tank tops. I couldn't get tattoos. And so I just went ham, and I've just been experiencing all of these things. And like, it's been really cool to like reevaluate who I am as just a human on earth. Like, take out the like even God, like I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to like think about that. Like, what does it mean for me to be a human living in this, or maybe this soul living in this meat suit? I don't know. Like, what does that mean to me? What do I think is going to happen when I die? Or what do I think the purpose of my life is? Or, I don't have this religion telling me that anymore. So I can like explore that on my own. So I've done, and LA is so great because it's so accepting of like spirituality and like exploring those parts of yourself. So I've done like past like hypnotherapy sessions, and like I've learned about astrology and tarot. And like 2 years ago, if you would have like put me in front of myself and been like, this is who you are in 2 years, I'd been like, what? No. Anyways, yeah.
Wow, I'm so proud of you. That's a really courageous thing to do. And knowing that your entire life is going to change and you're going to lose people, and like that's not easy, but also, yeah, really knowing that that's not okay. And it's so interesting how, because I've never been religious in a church, and it's so interesting how they don't let you think for yourself. You have to think in their lens, and it's quite controlling and manipulative. And how does it work though? Because like, how do you see other people living in the ways that they tell you not to, but then you can't? How does that work?
The way that you put these glasses on, like when you look at other people through the Mormon lenses, it's like you look at them with pity because you're kind of taught that you have this knowledge and understanding of how the life works. And like, how sad for them that they don't see that. And like, how sad for them that they can't be together with their families forever. Like, how sad. And like, that's a big part of like Mormon missionary work. Like, you've probably seen the dudes with the white shirts and the name. Like, I was that girl in Italy, and literally every day you just wake up and you're like, I need to tell people about this amazing knowledge that I have because of the Book of Mormon. Oh my gosh, like I wouldn't even know what I would do if I didn't have this knowledge. And so like that's like the lenses that you have on. And so you almost have to, like, for me, I started evaluating people and I was like, wait, they said that gay people like were fake, that like they're like really in love, like they definitely love each other. And like, or just little things like women's voices, and be like, no, my voice is like should be prioritized. And so like little by little you start to like pick away these identities that you've been given. And I think the scary part is when you're kind of left bare, because at one point or another, like all of those things about your identity and your beliefs about your why you're on a human on earth are like just gone, and you're just so incredibly stripped of any identity, which is so beautiful and so scary at the same time. And like you kind of have to like hold these two feelings of just like freedom and also just like isolation, if that makes sense, which is just wild and beautiful and sad and crazy and full of like happy tears and sad, all of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, like looking at emotions in general, but how we can hold the opposites, like we're experiencing both at the same time. And it's how do I do this? Especially when
Yeah.
you lose your community through all that too. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, babes, you know I'm all about holistic health, and sometimes that means fixing your physical body from within. Your gut is the center of all health. So me and my friends at Gut Personal here to support you with that. Gut Personal is all about empowerment and getting you the right answers to fix your unique gut. I love that they have a personalized quiz so you get the supplements that are meant for you. I'm obsessed with Miracle Worker Magnesium. I take it every day and I know you'll love it too. Use my code ALIVE to enjoy for 10% off at checkout and have a happy gut. So where are you at now?
So I am like out of the Mormon church, not ever going back. And I am still kind of in the grief process sometimes. Like every once in a while, I'll like have this realization where I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good to feel this like sadness and feelings. And then every once in like a few weeks ago, I got my first tattoo. And I just like one day I woke up and there was somebody doing like flash tattoos of like cowboy boots and cowgirl hats. And I was like, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. And I was just sitting in this chair getting a tattoo. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting a tattoo. Or like the other day I went, like it's getting warm outside and like summer is happening. And I'm like, oh, I can wear tank tops. Like, how cool that it's summertime and I don't have to like, because Mormons have these like special underwear, they have like garments. Anyways, it's kind of weird, whole other thing. But like,
Oh my
I was like,
God.
man, I can like wear a tank top or just like try, like, I'm all of a sudden allowed to like smoke weed and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, it would be nice to like come home and like smoke a joint. Cool. And like if I knew this about myself 2 years ago, I would have been like, who is that person? And I think a lot of people are just like, oh, Keely. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how people see it, but the way that I experience it is just like happy and sad at the same time.
Yes, yes, definitely. And it's so inspiring. It's so cool to watch you just be like, wow, I have power to make my own choices now and make decisions of like what I want. And there's no one holding me back. Like it's so liberating. It's so, are you finding that you're getting decision like analysis paralysis, or is it just like, yeah, let's do it?
Oh, no, yeah. I've like, well, yes and no. Like, I'm like able to like listen to my gut now. And like I'm allowed to just be like, oh, I think that it would be a good idea to like live life this way. Or, oh, this feels like something that my soul like thinks is truth. Or, like I did a past life hypnotherapy session. I think I said that. And like the fact that I was able to just entertain the idea that like maybe I've had past lives where like I've lived in different lives, and the idea that I can even just entertain that is just like wild and just so exciting. And on the other hand, there's a lot, I think specifically about my sexuality, which I haven't talked with a lot of people about because it's still like really fresh. And I'm just like, my whole life, I've been told that like gay people are fake, like that they're not real. And so, how did that affect me evaluating my own sexuality as a child? And like just knowing that, at least believing that there was just only one way of living life and your sexuality, and like being in a place where and like I was planning on marrying one person and not having sex with them until we got married, and then like only having sex with that person the rest of my life. Like that's what I thought my life was going to be. And now that I can choose that on my own, I'm just like, oh, polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, gay, lesbian, bisexual. Like I like have to ask myself these questions now. And there's a lot about myself that I'm uncovering that I didn't know was there. And that's like kind of scary and exciting. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's a like sex in general is such a huge topic. So to like have that huge extra layer on top to like go through and then to just like explore all that, like that is,
Yeah.
and I know in our sister circle we've talked about it too. And yeah, it's really difficult. And like so yeah, like how are you starting to form that relationship with your body and like explore yourself?
Yeah, so I've actually talked quite a bit about this on my podcast. So if anybody wants like a super deep dive, I did a whole lesson on Mormon sex education. But I remember when I was a little girl, like masturbating, and I had no clue what it was. I like literally was just like, oh, if I do this, it'll feel nice. And I didn't even know that girls could masturbate until I was like 24. And finally, I was like, oh, that thing that I've been doing is, oh, that's what it is. And so, like, I would consider like, I think I've always just been in tune with my body. And so, like, from that sense, like, I feel privileged because I know a lot of people in my community didn't have that experience. But at the same time, like, I feel really behind my peers. And especially as I'm going out dating, like I'm kind of an old soul, so I prefer to like date people who are maybe a little bit older. And it's hard to like compare my experience with their experience. And like it's such a big part of a relationship that it's kind of this weird topic to talk about. Like, hey, you've like had a lot of sexual experience and I've had close to none. Like, how do we explore a relationship together? Like, how do these experiences that I've had show up in the moment? And how do your experiences that you have show up in the moment? And like, is that compatible on top of like so many other questions of compatibility? Like, oh, do you like the same things? Are you into this? You know, all of these things that you talk about when you're dating, and then getting to this huge important stage and just having so much to unpack about it just makes things kind of complicated. And a lot of times I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it. I just, it's too much. And other times I'm like, no, we need to talk about this. And it's just, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's challenging and super vulnerable. And so have you gotten more comfortable with being vulnerable, do you think?
Yes, but it still scares the hell out of me. Like it's so like I literally just had a hard conversation with someone the other day, and I was just like, cry, like I cry. I'm the type of person that like if I'm mad, I will cry as the words are coming out of my mouth, and people are like, Kaeli, are you sad? And I'm like, no, I'm just mad and like crying. So like anytime I have like vulnerable conversations where it's just like it shouldn't be a big deal, but I'm just like emotional about it. And I'm like, so I have a crush on you, you know, like little things like that. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not, you're processing so much, you know, so of course there's emotions that are going to be coming out left and right because there's been so much suppressed for so long and you haven't been able to think or feel for yourself. So like it's coming out one way or another.
Man, it's messy, but like all we can do is go forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And so does your family still accept you?
Yes. I would say our relationship it's probably always been a bit distant. Even like before I decided to step away from the church, my relationship with them, like I haven't lived close to them in 10 years. So it's always been a little bit distant. I think that they process a lot and maybe think and feel a lot that they don't tell me about, which can create some like unspoken tension, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, sometimes like the other day I was just like, Mom, I pierced my belly button. And she was like, oh, and just like so completely shocked. And I was just like, okay. Like, it's just like there's a lot of me that I feel like I need to suppress when I'm around my family, which is the hardest part, but like they still love me and I know that I'm always welcome in their home. It's just not the most I don't know, ideal situation, I guess.
That's nice that you can still have a relationship with them. They didn't like exile you or anything.
No, yeah. They just think that I'm no longer part of their family in heaven. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting that people are so locked into these. I just don't understand how you can't see that like there is other ways to think, you know? It's so brainwashing.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
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 Ugh, well, I'm just so grateful you did and that we probably wouldn't have met if you didn't. So
No, yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I'm just like proud of you for always trying new things and getting out there and
Thanks.
yeah, and living on your own. So there's like so many
Wild.
like monumental things that are happening so quickly for you, it feels like.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I'd love to like hear about how your job has been supporting you and what do you love about that role?
Yeah. So I work in advertising as a digital advertising strategist. So I work with companies to manage like the ads that are on Facebook and Instagram. So basically they're like, hey, here's $500,000 this month. Can you make us $1 million? And so I'll say, here's what I'm going to do to make you your $1 million. And then at the end of the month, I say, here's your report on how I made you $1 million. And so I have a few different clients that I work with doing that at an agency. And I love it so much. I think for a long time, I like tried to defy the corporate, life because I didn't want it to like, I don't know, I had a lot of jobs that were just like butt in your seat and like you're here for 8 hours a day and you get paid $19 an hour. And at least the company that I work at is like super progressive and they're just like, hey, we know that you have this skill and it's really valuable for us. And like, we'll pay you like a competitive like wage and like you can set your schedule and like do it whenever you want and however you want, but we're here to like support you. And it's like really, really been empowering because I kind of have a bit of a scarcity mindset about like money and finances. And so having the ability to just like pay my rent takes off so much stress from like, our basic human needs of having a roof over our head. And because of like the flexibility of everything, I still have time to like do stuff that I'm passionate about. And like I started a podcast and like I get to help other women and also men, people who are like maybe transitioning out of the Mormon church. And like it brings me so much fulfillment to just be able to like foster this community for people who are struggling. And it's just like such a unique struggle that it's just, I don't know. And I'm just excited about what that has in store for me. Like maybe one day it'll be just such a big thing that I've made come to life that I like work on that full time. And I would love that. But for now, I'm like happy that I have a job that I enjoy, that pays me well, and I can pay my rent and I can work on outside stuff. So yeah.
It's definitely going to be huge. I feel that for you. And you can be a motivational speaker. I see a lot of things. It's so good. And I love that you still love where you're at too, which is so important. So, hot damn, you got it figured out, mama, even though it's still like you're in the midst of it. It's like you're on the right path. And that's a great feeling.
It's honestly just divine. Like I've been telling a few people, like, I just follow my gut. Like if my gut is just like not excited about something, I'm just like, okay, I should probably stop doing that thing. Like I was a wedding photographer for a long time and I was like, I'm gonna be the wedding photographer, I'm gonna travel the world, take pictures. And then all of a sudden I was just like, wait, I don't feel excited about working every weekend and like all summer long. And like, I don't know, that doesn't excite me. I just like sold my camera. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm going to start a podcast now because that feels exciting to me. And like allowing myself to just like drop things or pick things up as I feel like to do so has been really empowering for me.
It's like one of the easiest secrets to life. We're always being guided, but we're just not listening. And so the fact that you are listening, you are so set up, and so much magic is going to continue to happen because that's all we got to do is trust what feels good.
Yes, I agree. And you're doing the same.
Yay. Yeah, it feels so good. It's so funny, like how complicated we make things when really it's like truly just listen to the inner knowing and you're good.
And also it's just like, I think we have so much competition like built up in our just like upbringing as a society that like we can all just be doing our thing and like supporting each other and like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that it's cool that we have similar principles about like following our gut and our guts have led us in completely different paths and like we're both happy and like excited about what we do. And I know that probably sounds like, yeah, duh, but like knowing my upbringing and just like being told like, no, there is one path to happiness and like this is your path to happiness and being able to be like, no, that's not my path. Maybe that's your path. That's fine. My path is different. Oh, and their path looks different too. And like, oh, their path looks different and that's cool. And like just being able to accept that is so it's like eye-opening. It changes everything.
That is such a cool observation. Yeah, it's so interesting. Thank you for sharing all this. I did not know most of it, so it's really fascinating. And yeah, just so cool that you are already impacting so many people and so many more to come. And like it's really important that you're using your voice and super courageous, because they obviously, no one would want you to do that in the church. So yeah, it's like, it's amazing. But because it's like, yay, you're gonna help some other people that are in there feeling the same way you felt.
Yeah, no, thank you for appreciating that, because sometimes so much of it is like an internal thing. So I appreciate that.
Of course. And the last question of the podcast is, if someone is struggling, what would you tell them?
Oh, take care of yourself first. Like, put yourself first. Like, what are your needs? Tap into that and like take care of yourself. And yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. It's so, so important. It's so simple, but we forget about it all the time. And so often we don't take care of ourselves and take out that extra time. So that's great, great encouragement. And if someone wants to find you, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at cowgirl _ in LA. And I'm also, my podcast is on all of the places, but Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and that one's Cowgirl in LA as well. I'm a big Twitter gal, so I'm on Twitter at Kaeli, Kaeli. So yeah, that's where they can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.